Our esteemed panelists are Leena Kumar of Kumar Consultants. Leena is also the Joint Honorary Secretary of IAA National. She's also the chairperson of Assocham Gem Karnataka. We have Vishwas Venkat from Crest Architects. Please welcome Leena Vishwas. Chitra Vishwanath, Biome Solutions. And Vijayta Malik of Malik Design Studio. Nitin Solapurkar of Solapurkar Associates. Nitin was the past president of Triple ID National. Welcome all. Skilled construction workers currently, and this is impacting the, the quality of the construction, right? Whether it's plumbing, whether it is masonry, you're having a huge dearth of construction workers. So what exactly can we do about this? I mean, this is to Leena. How can we address this? Should we need to have, like they have skilling centers, should we need to have skilling centers across the country which is going to address this? Or, should we look at, putting them on the job training? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, of course, there's no one rule that fits all. And the first thing is when people come into the construction industry to work, we got to figure out their talents, we have to figure out their backgrounds, you have to figure out first their mindset. And very largely, I would say the problem is that a lot of the construction workers accept mediocrity as a norm. And by and large, I would say even us as citizens, we are happy with mediocrity. Somewhere it's a very comfortable zone to be in because nobody's expecting anything more and anything goes. So that's the first change that needs to come about. And that's not easy. Of course, change is never easy. But I do believe that the government has set up some nudge units, which they have, I know, in Delhi, where there's a lot of research work going on as to how do you change the mindset of the common citizen. Which is, when I say mediocrity, it's even simple things like you spit on the road, you litter the road, and we all feel it's okay. So I'll give you a very small incidence of once my daughter was coming back from school, and it was one of her friend's birthdays, so she got a little sweet. And she gave it to the driver, who opened it and threw the wrapper on the road. And she said, "Stanley, why did you throw it on the road?" And he said, "This is my country, I can do what I want." So, which is true, it is our country, we can do what we want. But the first thing is to change the mindset to, this is our country, so take care of it. I think that's the first thing. And I don't know how you go about that, but perhaps that will come slowly, it will evolve with change, whether education is it. And I don't know if education is it, because we had a very good history teacher, K.N. Iyengar, who would say it's better not to be educated at all than to be educated wrong. But still, education, I think, is the basis of it. Then the second, I would say, yes, for those who are so inclined, having skill centers like this is important. But information is another thing that's not available to everyone. There's a lot that we have in our country. I mean, you were talking about heritage, but there are a lot of organizations that are doing wonderful work, but people are not aware of it. You just don't get information about it. That's also, I believe, a certain kind of an Indian thing, Even if you look at our laws, our bylaws, it keeps changing, but we don't know it. We don't know our rights, we don't know what we can do, we don't know where to get information from. So having skill centers is, yes, one thing, but for everyone to be informed of it is the other thing, people should know of it. So yes, we do need skill centers. And the third thing, of course, is like what was discussed earlier, what do people get paid? You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So payment also has to go up. That's, of course, market-driven. But it's also skill-driven, and I do believe as a country we are gearing up to change from mediocrity to excellence. I think we are all demanding more. I think we want more. We want a better place to live in. So that's where I think it's going. And yes, it doesn't have to be formal. It can even be informal, and there are many who learn on the job itself. Actually, I do believe that the Indian is an extremely intelligent person. You know, you see any driver who drives, he can open your car and he can fit it without any formal education at all. So it's also learning on the job. Um, a lot of our construction workers, yes, are perhaps not so, they could improve on their skills. And I think it's going to improve. I think it's going on in a good way and in a bad way. It's very strange because there's sometimes situations where you have such a wonderful team, and sometimes the next project you go to and the contractor is really terrible. So I don't know what really drives it, but perhaps it is the demand of the client eventually. It's the demand of us as people, and that's what will bring about change.
I agree. But then, earlier we used to have the traditional way of learning in the job. Like, for example, my carpenter, he would say, like, if I tell him, like, go to a skill institute and then you learn, he will say, what, madam, how much they will learn? They have to learn on the job, they should be experienced. So he will say there's a difference, how much theoretical knowledge, unless there's a practical thing. So would you look at even, those sort of vocational, on-the-job training centers, along with these sort of skill centers, would you advocate that sort of a thing to start with?
Well, as buildings get more and more complicated and as people demand much better service, I think it will become perhaps soon enough almost mandatory that all the labor that comes in, especially the technical ones which go into, electrical, plumbing, sanitary, firefighting, that they will need to be trained before they can even come onto the construction sites. I believe that's where it's going. And as far as the construction workers themselves who are building, that somehow seems to be the slowest to change. I cannot understand why that is so, but it is changing very slowly. I mean, nobody seems to be so concerned about lines, levels, and plumbs, except architects. I mean, I know I am. I hate it when someone says, I'll plaster it and it'll become okay. It's horrible. So wherever I can, I tell them to break it and redo the wall. And then everything becomes fine. That same man does a good job once you tell him this is not acceptable, and he produces a good work. So at the technical side, yes, I think it will become mandatory. On the civil side, I believe it depends on how much the client, the end user, the architect demands of the construction.
Vishwas, so would you say that, like she's talking about, should we have, skilling centers which have a common curriculum? Like if you have an IIT, it's a common curriculum. You have MBBS, you have a common curriculum. So would you advocate opening skill centers which have a common curriculum? And maybe these are also vetted by, contractors, architects, who are civil engineers, who know what is needed at the site level, and then, sort of vet the curriculum. Would that help? And would you look at, maybe school dropouts, those sort of in the rural, urban areas, to sort of, garner them and then get them into this? Because at least they have some skilling.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's very much important that laborers are given a whole site knowledge about different skills. I mean, it's not just their particular skill, because it's important to respect each and every person who's working on a site. Because a civil guy doing his job well won't just do when a carpenter, when he's doing his job, spoils the work of a civil
Yes.
thing. So it's very important that each laborers or these masons, or they understand one another's the importance of their work, as well as how what is to be done, what not to be done. And it's not about and also, like you said, definitely we need contractors or architects who pitch in and kind of give a. I mean, at a small scale level, when when in our individual projects, we try to give that heads up. Give them the instruction that this is so and so, and you need to be careful when you're doing dealing with this kind of job and things like that. But on a larger scale, it requires that kind of training. I mean, every skill center, like when they're specializing on a particular thing, they also have to be given knowledge about other things, and it also provides them a bigger spectrum of work opportunities. I mean, it's not just someone who's learning only carpentry. Tomorrow, if he's not able to find a job in carpentry, he should be able to, at least until he finds the interesting job, should be able to make his livelihood doing something else as well. So that kind of gives them that broad perspective, and I think that's important. Yeah.
Vijeta, so, see, you can have the supply, but then unless you have the demand, the supply is going to burn out. We saw that in the heritage panel. Now it's the same thing for an institution to sustain, to be there. They need students.
Yes.
So how do they get the students? So, while we are looking at, getting students from maybe school dropouts or rural, urban areas, can architects, contractors, others, pitch in to supply the students?
See, what I would say is right now we are focusing only on rural students.
Rural, urban,
yeah,
semi-urban.
Semi-urban.
Yeah.
See, that happens when the students themselves who are part of architectural colleges end up getting trained in such skill center. Right now what happens, part of the syllabus, they study everything, but they themselves don't have hands-on experience, so they are not valuing it. So imagine they are coming, getting trained here, adding value to what they are studying, then that is when they push, when they are practicing, they push for a skilled labor. They want, ultimately, their design to be as they have visualized it.
But how do you get the skilled workers? You need to get the skilled workers, right? So,
see, how do you get a skilled
yeah,
worker?
you have to. I mean, if you're talking about architecture students participating in this, but you need to also look at skilling the construction workers, because they are the ones who are going to be
Yes.
finally constructing. So
Yes.
we are talking about them enrolling, because like Mr. Mehrani was saying, we don't have that many people enrolling. If you
Yeah.
don't have people enrolling, the skill center is going to shut down.
Correct.
So what is the point in having
them? Yeah. So I feel that bridge, the students from government colleges, schools who drop out after certain level of their education should be pulled in. If they know that they have the opportunity to build their career, they generally drop out because of the financial crisis. So when they see that by acquiring this skill set, their career is going to boost up. So most often they migrate to urban areas in lookout of job, and this skill is adding value to their life. That is when they would really want to engage, right? So I feel tying up with such government college schools would really help.
Okay.
And also, if you notice, there are quite a lot of developers and builder companies who have their own skill development programs wherein they train their own engineers,
Yes.
workers and things like that. So if tying up with such developing companies and things like that provides, platform for increasing the job opportunities for these people. So that is when they would want to enroll and register in this. And another issue what I notice is not just the skill. Most often the workers are well skilled, as ma'am rightly pointed out. They are not groomed. They are not groomed. So this skill center helps, providing that additional thing to them. They become professional in what they're doing. They're actually talented, but they don't have that integrity to take it further to the next level. They just want to, as she's rightly pointed out, mediocrity. So this skill center should not only aim at building skill, but also a lifestyle.
It should be like a finishing school.
Yes, yeah, very well. A finesse should be added to them. So that is when a product comes out is really well polished and done.
Okay. Chitra, we know your passion for, sustainable methodologies of construction. Here we are talking about plumbing, you're talking about, carpentry, whatever. How about, whether it's lime plaster, whether it's rammed earth, etc. I mean, those are all not really used. Like you rightly pointed out, everybody is actually using it, only some of them. Would you look at even that sort of a skilling and, the traditional methodologies also? Would you look at that also? And is it possible, because there you're talking about artisans, is it possible to bring in that sort of skilling also amongst the construction workers? So that there is a supply, So people, like, if they want to do timbrel wall, they're not looking for, artisans. They know where to source from, because there is a supply.
Yeah, but when he did the timbrel vault, he knew how to make the timbrel
Exactly,
vault.
but
So that is what is needed. How many of us architects are able to build? So listening to Vishwas and Vijeta, it looks like we need a skilling center for supervisors and engineers rather than we putting it onto the masons. Look, world over, construction sector, let's say the masons are mostly migrants. You will never find a British mason, but you'll find a Bulgarian mason before Brexit. Or here in Bangalore, when we started in 90s, there were the Tamilians, now we have the Biharis. So they're the migrant workers. Because construction sector, in fact, is a very nice place where you learn while you're earning. Now, if I make a skill center for mason, am I going to be paying the daily wages? Okay, so then that has to happen. Plus, if we have to have skill developed, like Kembavi said, respect, wages, which are right. Right now, developers bring people and it's almost slave labor. They are kept in one corral and you get construction done. Okay. So these things are the ones which have to come from the society. What's happening with the Ministry of Labor? It didn't give out the monies when it made people walk home. The laborers didn't get anything. So where is that? Where is the governance which is responsible towards the labor? Let's bring all that. When the mason at 50, you can only, up to 50 you can work, because carrying that heavy load, if you decide to build with stone, 4 floors high, which I think is silly because it's a very heavy material and you could think of some other material. But then when he becomes old, is there anything for his retirement benefits? Is there a payment to him as a mentor? No, you're gone. If you have a experience of 20 years, is that mason paid differently or higher than a mason who's just come? No. In your rate analysis, you just put 1,000 rupees per day for mason. Do you qualify that mason? Do you qualify that work? Do you qualify that if this arch is to be made, it's not part of masonry, it's part of an arch and it will have a cost? No. Your CPWD rate analysis will put it as masonry. You do a lovely roof, and even if it's a timbrel vault, it will be difficult for a client to accept that. That will be more expensive than an RCC. So it's again, the first panel, everything was put on architects. The second panel is on some imaginary skilled mason who will make this wonderful place. But we as architects should know. We should know how to draw the first course so that we don't have that small brick in this parapet, because that brick is a waste if we drew that. So if we went...
Don't we learn that in architecture school?
We do.
Then?
We have...
How come it came up there in that case?
No, so that because the drawing is not done by the architect properly. If you saw A.D. Rajesh drawing on design of IM, the other parts, every course was drawn or it was known how to draw. If Jaisim uses those porotherm block in all the weird ways, that's because you know how to construct. You know how to draw it also. But these things are important. We say we want to do these things and we want a legendary mason who could do everything. And that's not possible. How much of us know how to construct? How much of us understand water or electricity and everything to get it together? And finally, I don't want to be talking too long, we in India will be constructing for next 30 to 40 years. Our HDI is so low, the only way to improve our HDI is to do infrastructure development. We'll be constructing, so we would need construction happening. We would have distressed agriculture, we would have migrants. So it's good to think of these things, but along with it, please, the architects have to learn construction. The civil engineers should know construction. We have site supervisors who don't know what is level, like Vijita was saying. Lina was saying, where is the level? Stuff. So you have to have that happening. So, that's it. And so, yeah, so you have to give commensurate payment, you have to have insurance, you have to have retirement benefits, then only construction will be an attractive choice. It won't be one step getting into the city. It won't be a place that I get and next I'll become a Mestri and bring some more people from my village. I should know. But because I know all of the masons we know have been agricultural laborers. They haven't been traditional masons. There are very few traditional masons in this world. So if we know how to...
Nitin,
Pratibha, she knows how to construct.
Chitra has opened up a huge, I would like to say, maybe should I say Pandora's box of problems, issues. I mean, she's literally looked at the, the comprehensive aspect of everything, and she's even spoken about the skilling of the architects and the civil engineers. Okay, so now. So you were the past president of IID, and we have Leena Kumar, who's the current, honorary secretary of IIA National. Can these, so if you're looking at, she was talking about slave labor also, so we are looking at a whole lot of, one thing is, of course, even if we have the skilling institute just for basic training also, we need to have some kind of a placement, like a campus placement, in order to, and to ensure that whether it's talking about retirement benefit, whether it's talking about the correct, identifying their skills, etc., and paying accordingly. So we need maybe architect bodies to interfere, to play a role. Where exactly do you see IIID, IIA, such big architect bodies playing a role and actually facilitating, taking care of the construction workers in the construction industry?
Yeah, see, first we have to understand that IID or IIA or other such bodies are professional bodies, right? So they are meant to protect or develop the profession first. But yes, having said that, all our masons, all the labor, all the supervisors that we've been talking about, they're all part of the trade as such. Now what happens is that these institutes, though everybody would like to facilitate the labor and guarantee them jobs, but it's a different situation. It is not like a lifelong job. I mean, you can have job boards in software companies or in the corporate where there's a job and from tomorrow you start work and then you work all your life till retirement or whatever. See, the construction industry, as we know, is a unorganized sector. There's a part of the construction industry which is very organized. There's a part which is totally unorganized. And the labor, the masons, all these, the skilled labor or the unskilled labor fall in the second part of unskilled labor. So while the institutes should, I think their main job is really to spread awareness that such an the unorganized sector of the construction industry should be organized, and how. So it doesn't mean that they start setting up the skill centers, but yes, they should create an awareness among companies that a certain training is required for the skilled workers and that the workers need to be skilled. Now, yes, all of us have worked with masons who are traditional masons or converted themselves into mason. And like Chitra said, what happens if a mason is highly skilled? Would you pay him more? Or what does he do after 50? Well, generally we have seen that a mason who gets highly skilled or skills himself becomes a contractor. He converts himself into a contractor and then, employs other masons who are not so skilled. And that's how the trade is going, and I think we are all comfortable with it because we don't want to bother ourselves really about this labor.
It's self-sustaining.
Yeah, it's just self-sustaining. That's the pattern it's been following. But then, where does the mediocrity come? Why does the mediocrity come in the industry? It's because we don't upgrade our labor. They go with the same skills, and we expect that they should learn on their own. Now, they have to keep abreast with the technology. What are the new tools in the market? What are the tools available to them? So some of the corporates are doing this. I mean, I know of Somani Tiles, who came up with a plumbing center, how to train plumbers and how to train people who lay tiles. They came up with tools, particularly when, tiles have to be laid at angles or at curves, at odd corners. How do you cut a tile? So they did come up with the tools, and they had a tool kit for the tile layers. And they did demonstrate this in one of our IID events. And I was quite fascinated. I said, wow. I said, somebody's taken this trouble to come up with this. So while I think we should set up learning centers for the masons, for the plumbers, for the electricians. And I think this, what we saw today in this building, is a very good initiative to that end. And of course, it's open for others. I felt there were so many things that I should also learn, so systematically it's been organized. So when this happens is when we can really expect our whole labor education or the skill sets to really come up. We can't expect them to really upskill themselves on their own. It doesn't happen. See, because this unorganized labor is at such a level that they remain a daily wage labor no matter how much they progress. They cannot save money or cannot save money for their son to get educated and upskill himself. So if it happens, it happens. Then he becomes better, somebody becomes better, he takes the other person, and this is how it happens. At the same time, you cannot facilitate job boards in this construction industry. It cannot happen. But the construction companies or the construction sites are job boards by themselves. There is so much demand for labor. On one hand, there's a huge demand for labor that there's no time for them to upskill themselves really. I mean, they come from such backgrounds that if they don't work today, they will not, they will not eat today. So where is he going to go and upskill himself? He will need the time. So he'll need to have a basic resource first to support his family and himself and then upskill himself. So it doesn't happen. So it has to happen like a social initiative only. A lot of companies have to come forward and in their CSR, from their CSR funds, set up such centers and train these people. Only then, I think, when it happens across the board, when it becomes a social and a corporate initiative together, only can we hope that the whole, the generality of labor will really upskill themselves and get good jobs. And I'm sure they'll be paid well. Because even today, if you get a skilled labor to do your job and who does it well, one is willing to pay him more. That is for sure. So I think the institutes, professional institutes cannot alone themselves guarantee these things. But yes, they can create a lot of awareness and have the corporates and other such entities to set up such skill centers for these people.
Thank you. So, one side you're saying, talking about corporate initiative, and the other side you're saying you cannot give, I mean, there are jobs and it'll sustain them once they get skilled. But how do we, at least from the skill centers point of view, how do we sustain them? I throw this, question open to you. How do we identify and bring these people who want to be skilled, who are available to be skilled, to identify them and bring them to the skill centers? Where can contractors help? Can architects help? Can public help? How do we do it? What steps? I throw it open. You get my point?
You're saying, what do we do to upskill? I think that takes a great organizational skill for, to identify and then send them to.
Like she was talking about government schools. Go to them, pull them out, things like that.
Can I say something? Yeah. I think it's the larger construction companies which need to pick up this initiative, and really get started. Because they are the ones who offer maximum employment. They are the ones who use technology. And they are the ones who need this labor to know about the technology and how to use it. So unless the initiatives, if they have to come from the construction industry only. And the people whom they take, they have to give them a certain time for apprenticeship. Unless the apprenticeship is built into construction projects, you will not have people really getting trained for the next level.
Can the contractors participate in this sense?
They have to. Yeah, they have to. Yeah.
Essentially, the
contractors and the larger companies. Now, it depends whether a contractor can do it. He may just be doing work to sustain himself. Then obviously he cannot afford it. But then there are companies who can take up this commitment of even, let us say, upskilling a few of their, top laborers, top plumbers, top electricians, and so on.
See, I just want to add on to what sir was saying. See, if you take, for example, Urban Clap itself, we do find all the workers there, right? We have tile layers, we have toilet cleaners, or whatever they are, painters, everyone. So when they come from that particular agency, how they are, right? So they are so professional. And what we see in our construction industry, we don't see that, right? So tying up with such agencies, the skill center can really produce, that when people realize that they have such job opportunities to get into such companies where the job security is there, right? That is very important. In construction industry, that is not there. Maybe it's the attitude of the worker themselves, also builders, it's all of us put together, I must say. So that job security is there. So that is when they take that extra mile to get themselves, more educated. If they feel that, yes, I can see the progress and change. So that's when the skill center, tying up with such skill center really matters, People would want to walk in and get them registered.
Yeah, Chitra, you had something to say? Keep it close.
At all. It's so tough to build with hand. I think it should be machines which should be doing it. People should do less work. They should enjoy. They should meditate. They should grow.
Where does the money come from? Where does the wuta come from, Chitra?
No, there's no need for that much money. There's no need if you don't have. But I think we are tying ourselves to something in the past and we're thinking it's great or something. It's not needed. It's not needed at all. You should have machines building it up. And do small stuff, do a small timbral vault which is beautiful, and do a small wall which can be done from...
You're talking about 1.4 billion people in the country who are going to be unemployed. Construction industry is the largest employer, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
that is what it should not be. Or make that easier, okay? You won't have people coming to construction industry not by choice. If you're not paying and you're not making it comfortable, not by choice. Nobody enters construction industry by choice. Sorry. No.
Leena and Vishwas, you have anything to add?
Well, one thing, when you say who do you upskill, how do you choose who is good for what? That, of course, I think is a question of all of humanity, and you see so many people at the end of their lives, they said, I spent my life in this profession and I don't think I was really meant for it. So that is that's really a question, I think it's a very philosophical question as to how do you choose who is good. It's very difficult. But apart from that, yes, I think India is growing. We are going to be building cities. People are migrating from villages. And we are soon going to be a big urban state. So somehow we are going to build and build and build, whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
And people are going to come into cities. And they should, I guess, because if there's not enough employment in villages, if it's going to be drought, if there's going to be not enough agriculture to sustain themselves, I don't think they want to come, but if they cannot sustain themselves, then they need to come into cities and we're going to grow. So how do we skill? How do we keep up with technology? What is the technology that's going to come into our country? How do we adapt to it? Do we adapt to it? Well, those are all really much larger questions, and I think as time goes on, it will kind of sort itself out. That's all I can say. Because what the future holds for our country is, I don't know, sometimes I think I can't even imagine it. When I think of the people coming into cities and the number of cities we are going to build, India is going to burst. And it's something I don't have an answer to.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Like you've been president of the Indian Architect Association, right? I was at Siemens, and the gentleman there in charge of the training center said, when we had more than 50 people, we were required to have interns. When we had more than 500, we were required to have a training center. So big builders, say like L&T and builders like that, or even smaller ones, Shobha and all, they should have a legislation to have some kind of skill training center certifiable by another agency. And they have. So then this, that's perfect. Then that should kick in, and then there should be levels of what level you are at. Yes, and if that is taken care of, then I think we have a very good future. Then we have a future. But the other thing is about money and the dignity of labor. You have to work on the parents' mindset also. Here are parents who say, "I don't want my son to go and be a mason." There's an agriculturist here. He said, "You want him to be in agriculture, in FPO? I made him do MBA and he's going back to being a farmer." So we have to work on the mindset. So that, I don't know how you...
Computer engineering, and she went to US. And the son studied civil engineering. He was not that good, so he's working as a contractor. But no, they do want to go up the life. And what is this mythical government school people, and we'll take it out? Put your own child into being a mason. Put your own child being a mason. First do that. As an architect, you say, put your child being a mason. Then we will look at things.
I tend to argue with you on that. There are children who don't want to study beyond 10th. And I found the word dropouts being used. The word dropout should not be used at all. He just wants to study till class 10. After that, he wants to make a living. He wants to have a good life. His dad has bought me a bike, but I don't have the money for petrol. I can't go to my dad. I want to go and eat pizza. So you have to tell children like that. In an academy I went to, in a skill academy, they said we take children only at 10th. If he is past 12th, he is of no use to me, because he'll spoil the guys at 10th. So I feel like you have people waiting, campus colleges and all outside IIT to take these people on. We should have people waiting outside class 10. Go to schools and tell them, okay, you don't want to study, you come here, do this, we'll teach you the skill. And you'll start making 15,000, 20,000 rupees a month. Sorry?
When I see this building, what skill will you teach in construction here? From this building. What do I learn from this building I learned construction skill.
No,
you have to
see
do
the
that.
little things of how with your plumb line, whether everything is straight or not.
I think we'll take this conversation there.
No, I
because,
have to leave.
Because we are running out of time. So I'm just going to leave. Thank you all panelists. I'm going to leave on this note. I'm going to let Dinesh to take over from here with the past, present and future chairpersons of IIIT BRC. It's okay. We are in.
Thank you, Nandini. It's been an interesting afternoon. On one side, we have been talking about our history and skill, what is there, and we are trying to revive it. On the other side, we are talking about skill which needs to be developed for the future. When we are not able to hold our skill, which we had it as a heritage, will we be able to do anything for the future?
Sir has made notes like the lecture. He taught all of us.
Yeah, we've all been his students.
All three of us here have been his students.
Now, so let's talk of something. Till now, the talk which has been going on has been, I think, more theoretical. I thought I will make our talk a bit more practical. So it will be focused on actually what your experience has been and what it would be like. So if I start off with Kavita, You have been, spending quite some time on renovating buildings, remodeling them, and you even got an award for one of these projects recently. So how do you feel is the future of such retrofitting, or say that in a modern world, will we be doing more of retrofittings of the buildings which are already existing, or you feel that they'll be pulled down and we'll be putting new ones?
The only way to um, save your heritage or whatever your built heritage, which is in good condition, is renovated is one thing. But it is also important to repurpose the structure, to make sure that it's getting used for something. Because the minute it lies in disuse, there's no point in renovating it. So instead of constructing more and newer structures, wherever we can, if we can conserve and repurpose, then we should.
There's a live example which has happened recently right on Brigade Road.
Yeah.
So you have the old opera theatre which is repurposed, and then we are using it as a modern Samsung center. Right opposite that, you had the old Rex theatre which has again been made into a theatre, but it's not been repurposed.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
So I think the old Rex Theatre, the Opera House, of course, was a structure which could be repurposed, which could be saved, because a lot of them are beyond the cost of restoring them is more than building a fresh structure. So there's, then it doesn't make sense, because see, Rex Theatre is a commercial venture. It is owned by somebody who is a businessman. So
Okay.
obviously he's looking at the commercial aspect.
Even opera theatre was a theatre, and it's a
But-
business deal.
Yes, but what happened with it's not being used as an opera house. It's been taken over by a corporate, and it's being used as an experience center for Samsung, which is a great example of repurposing. It doesn't make sense commercially, but it makes sense in when you use your CSR, when and you're getting brownie points with the city. So, you're attracting the people by saying, hey, come and look at this. We've done this. We've paid for restoring and conserving this. And it's like almost like a great sales or marketing gimmick. So that's when it's a good way. It's a win-win situation. Whereas the Rex Theatre is a commercial venture. So it made no sense for him to repurpose it, and so when he could get multiplexes. So right now there are about 8 to 10 multiplexes there. There are restaurants there. And it's a really nice urban plaza for the city as well. So is the Samsung Opera House. So last month, we in fact did a little walk. We walked from the Samsung Opera House to Rex Theatre. And there was a band playing at the Opera House. And there was so much happening over there. So it was really nice. Saying, oh, wow, look, Brigade Road is so nice and buzzing. And then we went to the movie, at the Rex, the director's cut. So I would say both the models are different, but they both work. So here the architect has to use his, his sensibilities and do the right thing.
So we feel that yes, buildings which are existing right now can be doable and they can be successful. And also, if you break them down, then definitely you feel that they should be successful again.
So it's the model. You have
It's
to
the
choose
model
the right.
what you choose the right one. Gunjan, let's talk something about you. You have been doing a lot of interiors.
Yes.
And choosing a floor is very, very important for an interior.
Yes.
They've given a choice between the original Atangadi, what you saw today, to the fake look-alike Atangadis which are coming in the market now. You have on one side, which is something which is much thicker, much more heavier, which is not very precision. You have a limitation of colors. On the other side, you have something which is thinner, modern, lovely colors. You want black and white, you want this color, that color, they'll give you everything. Something which can be laid in thousands of square feet every day, whereas Atangadi tiles can be laid only about 100 square feet per day. If you are doing an interior, which one would you choose?
So if I could take the call, I would definitely choose the Atangudi, and I've used it in a couple of projects, not even recently, as early as 15, 20 years back. But I think it's also about educating the client about the advantages of using something which is handmade, and the client should also share a similar sensibility in terms of aesthetics.
That's very important.
So I think that is what is critical, and it's our job as an architect or interior designer to educate the client of what is possible, what is good. But at the end of the day, the call would be his. So I would say I prefer this, but if he or she, for whatever reason, is not convinced, then I may have to, park that for the next client.
But what about the time saving and the labor saving and the number of colors which you get?
I think both can be very beautiful in their own way. They're two very different things. And I think the way you apply them, now if you're doing a multi-level apartment complex, you can't use Atangudi for things like that. The quantity that's available or that's being manufactured is also so much smaller. So a project which is a little more niche, which is a more boutique kind of a project, Atangudi would make sense. And something which is more mass and more, multiplication of work, the ready-made tiles would maybe more sense.
What would be your comment on all the lookalikes which have entered into the market? Today you have tiles which look like marble, you have tiles which look like granite, and whether you have put company A or company B, after putting the tiles on the floor, even the company people cannot recognize whether it is their tile or somebody else's tile.
Well, some of the tiles are so good that even we can't make out whether it's marble or tile because the sizes are so large today. And if the layer has done a good job, they really look good. So we can't deny that I think there is a market for both, and there is a place where this makes sense and there's a place where that makes sense, which is totally dependent on budgets, on timelines available, and the sensibilities of the client. But I think our first job is to inform the client. The client should be well informed and understand what you prefer and why you prefer that. And if he agrees with that, then you encourage him to take that extra step in spending a little more time, maybe upping the budget a little bit, and doing what actually will make so much sense.
So you say there's a market for both.
Definitely.
But the larger market is for the ones which are not the original. Whereas there's a smaller market for the originals.
Yeah, and also availability is also more of the larger
ones.
It's more easier, it's more efficient, it's much more effective in its own way. Carrying, marble or tiles to so many floors, marble is not easy to work with.
Vishwanath.
Yes, sir.
Present, sir. Bolna kya?
No, you never took any.
So, I have been following you. You have been doing a lot of projects in different arenas. Commercial, residential, institutional. You have been also doing metro stations. And choosing floorings for each of this type is a tough job. When we are doing a hospital, you are looking at something which will be more germ-free. And sometimes you will be using something which is more scratch-resistant. So how do you choose the floor for that particular type of application?
As far as hospitals are concerned, we already have this anti-fungal, antibacterial. So we have the vinyl floors and things that which have already come. Where the problem in the vinyl floor is the laying of the vinyl floor is difficult. You see, we have a lot of brands which have come in, but that's where the skill center has to come in. You see, the laying of the vinyl floor or the wooden floor, these are like since you said hospitals, vinyl floor, the laying of that is more important. And the other portions of it is I kind of believe that skill centers are required for any of this other than mason, like for either for plumbing or for flooring, any of these, to keep the plumb and the other things. So we need more of these skill centers to develop to ensure that we get a good quality finished product. How do we choose? So we go as per, we finally build projects for others, not for ourselves.
Right.
And it's the end user which is very important. If we build schools, If we build colleges, it is different flooring. So how do we go about that is as per what the end user is required and what is the least maintenance that is required for them to go about the maintenance.
So how important is the L1 or L2 category in your case?
Oh God, I tell you, we have to suffer with this L1 and L2 forever.
In fact, quite a lot of discussion which has been happening today afternoon. I don't know, I was surprised, nobody mentioned the L1 and L2. You have good people who quote for your job, and finally you give it to somebody because he's L1. That is something really, really very sad in our country.
But in most of these private projects, you do not really have to go with an L1.
We try to
you
negotiate.
finally you negotiate and come to a certain understanding. But what has improved now from the last few years has been, in the last, say, couple of years, like we used to take the, say for example, if you want to convince a client saying that this is the best rate what you're getting at, is the earlier the CPWD, PWD rates used to be much lower, but today it's so much more higher that private is not paying for it. So we need to do a market analysis and things like that. So I think L1, L2, finally you get the L1 and finally get the best of your contractors whom you choose to come to some common price.
Something around
Yeah,
that.
some common price.
But I remember I did a lot of work with Raman Research Institute, and we would call contractors to tender only when we were all completely satisfied with his quality of work. So we were happy to give the work to either any of the three contractors. We had already vetted them in terms of quality, and then the work would go to L1 as long as he's not 20% lower than the architect's price list. So it was very clear that finally the selection was based, the last step was only on their cost, because you've already approved their quality. So that, I think, then it makes a lot of sense to go with the L1, unless he's really, really low.
I have had a case personally which I'll share with you. So I was doing a work for Institute of Science, and there was a huge auditorium to be done. And they asked me for pre-qualification. We did the pre-qualification, but they did not involve the architects in the pre-qualification stuff. And they themselves appointed the people.
It happened with Central Vista also.
So what the thing is, when these people who are pre-qualified, they quoted the fellow who was L1. They wanted me to sign on his paper, which I refused. I said, we'll make a team, we'll go visit the fellow's projects, see his office, and then only I'll sign. You won't believe it. I put a condition that we should not tell him that we are coming to your project or we are coming to your office. We took a car, we searched around half a day, we could never find his office. He came to know about it after 2 days, then he said, sir, I'll take you people to Mangalore to show us a project. So this is what happens with L1, L2 and all. But coming to the skill development, Vishwanath, what you just mentioned, it is not only the small things which we are talking about, the carpentry, the mason, the things and all, that we get it in our country from different places, that Chitra was mentioning. We get the best of stone people from Tamil Nadu, we get the carpenters from UP, we get the masons from Bihar, the marble layers from Rajasthan. What we also lack are the people who do the other heavy work. I have had a case where we were not able to start the construction because they were not getting a tower crane operator.
See, absolutely.
See the amount of paucity of people or skilled people we have. Apart from just the regular training, somebody needs to impart trainers to the dumper people, to the power tillers, to the JCB people and all the things. At present, they are just coming, whatever they have learned here and there, and they are just coming on it.
Like the JCB operator. It's so important. Half the time your site is stuck because your JCB is not there. And also there's, as far as steel structures is concerned, we have very few good welders. So that's where I think skill development centers will play a good role. Yeah. So like for example, fabrication. We have very few people who can fabricate, but everybody wants the project within 6 months, 8 months. Now, for example, Maiwan construction, I mean, there's so much of technology involved in it. So like for example, the cranes for my one, you need people to operate it.
Yes.
So I think in all the other fields, other than the mason, maybe mason, as she says, may not be, it may become difficult for them to, for a skill development center, but the other things, yes. That would be. And then the other lady was talking about the urban clap, you know.
Yeah.
The beauty of about that urban clap is they get a cap, they get a nice T-shirt, which, see, that is what
You improve the
laborer,
dignity.
the labor is looking at. They want the dignity of
The
labor.
dignity of labor has come in.
The dignity of labor is, they want to be picked up in a cab, they want to be picked up on a bike with a nice T-shirt at the back, so they get a sense of dignity in it.
Right, right. See, this sense of dignity, I don't know where Jasim. We were together at one time in a hotel in London. I don't know, Jasim, if you remember that day. And this fellow, as usual, we were walking up the staircase and we saw that one fellow was painting the wall. And Jasim asking, no, let's pull this fellow's legs, you know. So he started asking him, what are you doing? Why are you doing it like this? Just put 2 coats and leave it. And that fellow got cheesed off. He literally caught hold of both of us and gave us a full lecture as to how painting should be done. And that's where we said, yes, this is the type of people we need to do a good painting job. So Kavita, coming back to you, I woke you up. So we are talking of, you know, the big handling equipment and things and all. Whereas on your sites, when you're doing the interiors and things, you'll see that the carpenters, they have moved further from the handsaw, hacksaw, from the, you know, thing to make a hole. They used to previously have something which used to move with the string and all. To what now? Everything is like a power tool.
Mechanized, yeah.
Every carpenter today is using a power tool. And if there's no power on the side, there's no work going on.
Yeah.
So what do you say about that? Are these tools coming in for the betterment of the project, or because of that, the skill of using other hand tools is getting lost?
I think there's a place for both, because there are some things that a power tool cannot do to the precision or to the as beautifully as a hand can do. And also a lot of them bring their own skill sets to the job. So I think, and at a lot of sites now, when I go, most of the work has become modular. So it's not even getting done at site. All the carcasses, shutters, everything is, you know, brought, made, custom made at the factory and brought into the site. So, but like now I recently completed a project and this lady went all the way to Chettinad to get this beautiful hand-carved panel. Now, in her house, the kitchen is modular, the wardrobes are modular. But her love, or you know, we all have this deep connect to our roots, to the handmade. So that, when she went and saw this beautiful panel, which was almost like 8 feet by 4 feet, and it was hand-engraved figurines of Krishna, the life story of Krishna, and it was in 3 layers. So the top layer was Krishna as a child, and the center layer was him as an adult, as a young adult, and the last one was, I think, married life or whatever. But she was so proud of it. So here's a client who's demanding a modular or a tooled, custom-built kitchen and wardrobes, but at the same time is so much in love with this beautiful hand-carved piece. However, I would say that it is getting more and more difficult to get pieces like this, and I think it's a good thing because people realize the value of it. When something becomes scarce, people realize the value, they realize they're ready to pay more for it. And I feel our craft finally gets the respect it deserves. Now, if everybody is making Tanjore paintings and selling them, nobody will want it. So, I think everything has its place, and the key is to balance.
Gunjan, you put in a lot of art in most of your projects. Normally, an artisan is, you know, like you choose a painter, or you sometimes commission a painter to do a particular job, the painting and things and all. You visit China and you will see the same painting available in hundreds. Absolute copy and paste. And you cannot make out that they are false. They do not look like prints. They look like regular paintings. What do you feel about this type of art going down to the digital way? Do you think it is good that anybody and everybody can paint and come out with a painting? Or you'll still need some skill for painters to come up with something like original?
I think that's a really tough question, because the fact that all this is being manufactured or being painted, meaning there is a demand for it. So as long as there's a demand, the supply will somehow or the other work its way around and be there available. So again, I think it is the discretion of the client what kind of art. I mean, obviously we are not going to recommend that kind of art, and you might even do it for mid-level hotels and commercial projects. But for a residence, you're not going to recommend art like that. So you'll obviously look for something which is more appropriate, more original. And this will, I mean, copies will always be there. I think, fake, you get fake everything. Any brand, you get fake. So that doesn't change the fact that the original stuff is still very well desired and very well wanted. And people have an eye to figure out the difference between the two. So there will always be takers for both types. So I think we have to just figure out, which one makes more sense for which project. Yeah.
So
but, on another note, what we were talking earlier, even what we saw today at the Atangudi Center, I think it's very nice that you are trying to revive the old art. But don't you feel sometimes that it needs to be made more relevant, that we get the same product, that you don't lose the essence of the art, but we do make it more relevant in the way we manufacture it to today's times? Would a Kajaria factory look like that? Why should this labor who's making this Atangudi tile feel in any way lesser than a labor who's making a tile in a Kajaria factory? And he will feel smaller. So how do we bridge that gap and not be romantic about us trying to revive all these art forms, but still not lose the essence of the art form?
See, we have been talking of revival all the time. And the examples, unfortunately, which have been given are of saris, the revival of the dosa or idli somewhere. See, construction in the industry is totally different. You make a house and that's the end of it. You can't change it like a sari or, have a idli in the morning and something else in the evening. So comparing the two, I think is totally wrong. We are looking at somebody's money, which we as architects are telling him to spend. And I always say that we Indians are very proud of our heritage. We are very, very proud of something to which we have not contributed anything. And that's how we just say we are very proud, we are very proud. So coming back to this today's afternoon, you see that, there's been a lot of discussion. We are talking of skill. Vishwanath has been very, kind enough, and we did the project for Triple ID, where we have set up something like this, this thing on a smaller scale. We are calling it a material museum, where we have set up this thing in an architecture college, where students can go around, see as to how things work, how the tap works, how the geyser works, how the air conditioning system works, how the fire thing works and everything. So those type of skills definitely need to be inculcated in the students at different levels of their education. There was an interesting thing which somebody suggested, that let us have a mobile skill center. I think if somebody does that, that will be definitely helpful and we'll be able to cover much more.
In fact, that was one of the proposals we had.
Which we had.
We started with that. Actually, we wanted a mobile library, material library, as to how you fix each of these materials, and then they go to all the colleges in Karnataka. That is what we started with, but we can definitely revive it.
Another thing which is very, very popular abroad are trade associations. There's a painters association, there's a masons association, and to become a member of that association is very, very difficult. You need a certificate and you need a particular amount of experience to become a member of the trade association. And that association, like what we were discussing, I think Nitin was there. He was talking about the Institute of Architects or things and all, how they take care of us for our common things and all. And the corporate responsibility of the CSR, yes, it's not only Sumani Tile which is doing it. There are a lot of companies which have come up with this particular thing. They train now the tap companies. They do not only train their people, they send those people who are trained with that type of fittings to the site to see that whoever is working at the site is doing a proper job. So there have been some type of movement like this all throughout. There's a Bangalore Chamber of Industries and Commerce. They are working on a full-fledged 5-acre project for a skill development with the government of India and something. So there are a lot of people who are trying to put in their might into the skilled industry, which I'm sure all of us and even the panel agreed that we need somebody. Would you just say, come out with 3 trades where you feel the skill industry is really lacking and really we need them?
Plumbing.
Plumbing for sure. Electrical.
Yeah, electrical, but mine was plumbing and welding. These two we really find it very hard. And third I can't, maybe.
What about painting?
Yeah, but painters are also very traditional.
Yes.
You get a set of painters always like a mason, they follow that route. But if it can be done, yes.
What do you say, Kavita?
Plumbing for sure. Electrical to an extent. And of late I've been struggling with AC.
Gunjan, you have something to add?
I think they've covered it all, but I'm thinking somewhere even because of this whole modular furniture going into the modular thing, again, we need to conserve the handcrafted. And it's now becoming kind of fashionable to do things handcrafted, so I think there's a demand for that. And if we can revive that in a way which is relevant, it'll be nice. No, I feel we shouldn't just take it from how things were done 100 years back and do them exactly that way now. That's not going to work. We need to do them in a modern way without losing the essence of what that original way of making that was.
Right, but then, whatever you said and do, it is definitely going the industrialized way.
But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing
Today
wrong
we
with
don't want to go in a Belgadi, no? That will
Yes.
be when we go to a resort, we want to sit and take a picture and nice, but we want to go in a car. So there's nothing wrong in that.
Absolutely right, and I think that defines the entire skill center discussion
Exactly.
what we have had.
Yes.
Anybody else would like to add anything or say, yeah?
I think we need to have basic certification in this. That is why it is informal. Like the way you have class 10 in education, a degree, BE, we need to have basic certification, and that needs to happen at much younger age.
No, that's a very valid point, because he said abroad they have associations for masons and all. So obviously it's experience plus a degree of knowledge and some kind of certification. So
See, what has happened in our country is that there used to be these good old ITI institutes where we would get a diploma.
That was the idea behind skilling.
Now, suddenly these private institutions, they came over and they started offering degree. Now, a person who goes and becomes or gets a degree will not come down to, dirtying his hands on lathe machine or on a thing like that.
But Divisa, most of the ITIs have now been renamed as the skill centers.
That's because they have learned that today we do not have any masons or anybody. Everybody is an engineer. So who will do the mason's job?
Exactly. And what they've also done is they've tied up with a lot of industry people for their CSR activities. So that is now shaping up slowly.
Indrajit.
See, we are talking about a lot of skills, but today if we actually look at what's happening all over the world, we are seeing an extreme increase in extreme development. I'm not saying increased development in AI and robotics. So, the 21st century skills are totally different. So what is happening is whatever is repetitive, whatever can be read and understood by a machine will be done by a machine, where there will be no involvement of a human being at all, like probably building a wall, concreting a building, or 3D printing of a building are things which are going to definitely happen, but whether we like it or not, it's going to be replaced by machines.
Very true.
And robotics. So, we are not looking, I feel the long-term vision should not be to look at these repetitive tasks. Because even if we look at it, it will be irrelevant in just a few years, maybe 5 years down the line.
Yes.
But what we really need to look at, what comes is, another 21st century skill set which they say is where a human can survive is reskill himself into design thinking, creativity, artistic thinking, craftsmanship. So now these are things which cannot be read by a machine. So the whole difference which comes in is that you will have specialized skills or specialized talent which a human being will perform, whereas the mundane will always be performed by a machine and things. And to survive, like she said about a Belgadi and a car, we need a combination of both, because the speed at which we are needing infrastructure, the speed at which we are needing shelter with the increase in population, we cannot do it by traditional craftsmanship. We realistically cannot, whether we like it, we love it, we are passionate about it. So the truth is, we have to understand where we should focus our energies on from a thing which is going to emerge soon, and where we should not do it.
Very true. This reminds me, anybody heard of the Indus International School? And they deploy robots to teach. And it's made very clear that these robots are not replacing the teachers. Whatever Google can teach, the robots are teaching. But whatever the teacher has to research, as what you mentioned, and then come up with something different and all, and teach by herself, that the teacher has to do. So the robots are just trying to reduce the teacher's the time, and give more time for the teacher to research and teach better.
But I think there's a little, I'll give you an example. Just yesterday night I was reading an invitation for Ramanavami festival in my father's, grandfather's and my father's and grandfather's village, about near Nagrole and past that. So it was so, I was so touched by it. It said that you take a train from Mysore which goes to KRPete, you get down there and bullock carts will pick you up. I had not read something like this for ages, so I think both sides will survive. AI will definitely is there. There's no two ways about it. Bullock carts also would be there. So, so now I am actually interested to go back to that because the function is on the 9th. So I want to go back to that village to take a bullock cart. And they've given the train timings, which train to take and which stop to get down. And that was an invitation from the village. So yeah, I think both, we live in villages, India live in villages. So I think both will survive.
No, but the point is the bulls are put for better use. We cannot use them to, pull our load. So,
Huh? There is a Tamil, never been recorded even by All India Radio.
Today is the first.
You go to the Tamil Nadu village, there usually is an elephant that takes you for a parade. I also thought it was an elephant for a parade, absolutely behaving. Then afterwards, they brought, there is nothing but a locally youngster who has done these elephants in robotics. Wow. Total robotics. I thought it was one. All the 3 elephants were robotics. Amazing that how much India can do. But the Americans and the Germans are there trying to buy them out and take them out. And maybe the great country will bring, Adani will bring it for $1 billion back to us. Unbelievable AI robotics. Can be done.
Anything else before we end?
Yes, we need a drink.
Cheers.
Inshallah.
Okay. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
We all had a nice time and a good interaction.
Thank you to Nandini.
Thank you. Probably we are all looking at a new age of both, AI and crafts. Please, I request Shiva to give the vote of thanks. And please stay for the snacks and tea.
Yeah, so probably I am one of those novices in the construction industry today who was more of a participant rather than all you architects who have different views on each of the questions that was asked. And it was very interesting learning for me, being a novice in the construction industry. At the end of it, I learned that the customer is the king, but they can be managed with the architects who can convince them and do other things. That is what I took it. Somebody else might have taken something else. So I feel every discussion has three things: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And today's panel discussion had all three of them. And everybody had their for and pro and con, and we all learn. But more important thing, this video is going to be a good knowledge session for people who are on the track to become part of the construction industry. And we here at Art of Living, this place is as much as my home as it is yours. Your all involvement is appreciated, and we want you to be part of this and help us make this a better place, make Earth a better place, make this planet a better place, because we are all Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And the Sector Skill Council has more than 200 plus job roles. We have started in a very small way with the skills that you are seeing here. And I'm sure in the future we will provide more skill sets to many people. And do support, be a part of this initiative. Thank you very much to IIID BRC, without whom we would not have made this happen. And of course, Nandini. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. Tea and samosa are here.
स्टोन आ गया है, सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग का है, जहाँ पे हम अलग अलग स्किल ट्रेनिंग देते हैं जिससे वो आत्मनिर्भर बन पाए.
We are associated with corporates like Schneider, Bosch, Supertron, to name a few, under different CSR activities on skills training programs.
SSRTP, in association with Supertron, has started a 45 days mobile repairing training program. The participants in this program learn the basics of mobile hardware and software components. After the training program, they can join any established mobile shops or even start their own mobile shop. Millions of underprivileged young people in rural and urban India face serious problem of unemployment. In response to this nationwide challenge, Bosch, in association with SSRTP, has developed a short-term, job-oriented training program called Bridge, which is a pioneering project that combines skill development, competence, and deploys a unique vocational training model for making school and college dropout youth employable, thereby providing a pool of high-quality skilled manpower to the industry. The sole aim of Bridge is to bring unemployed youth in the mainstream of society with 100% job assistance. At our state-of-the-art Bosch Artisans Training Center on Carpentry, youth will receive a 9-month training program where 6 months of classroom training and 3 months of industrial training. This program aims to produce high-quality skilled and professionally certified artisans. The candidates are 10th, 12th and ITI pass. These participants of the program are certified by Bosch and get job and business prospects in home and office renovation and modern furniture appliances industry.
This is the Advanced Skill Development Center in Energy Management and Automation, developed with the support of Schneider Electric India Foundation. This 15 kilowatt AC microgrid solution is solar powered microgrid which can provide 24/7 uninterrupted electricity to our training center. This is an advanced solar training laboratory in which students are trained on basic solar energy concepts along with more of practical knowledge on solar home system, hybrid solar inverter solution, solar water pumping system, and solar rooftop solution for commercial and industrial applications.
The students are also trained on different self-entrepreneurship module, which helps them to start their own small solar business. They are also provided with different job opportunities in solar and electrical sectors through some placement activities.
This is the digital classroom equipped with interactive smart board, which helps students to stay updated with latest technology trends in renewable energy sector during their classroom sessions. This is the home, building and industrial automation laboratory where students are trained on managing all electrical devices from one place through remote control, resulting in increased energy efficiency.
आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग की तरफ से उनको यूथ लीडरशिप ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम कोर्स में 3 स्तर पे हम लोग उनको अच्छे से ट्रेन कर देते हैं। पहले की शारीरिक लेवल पे ट्रेन कर देते हैं, सेकंड मानसिक लेवल पे उनको स्ट्रांग कर लेते हैं और थर्ड उनको बौद्धिक लेवल पे भी स्ट्रांग करते हैं। तो इन सब चीज़ों से उनके अंदर का जो लो कॉन्फिडेंस है वो बढ़ने लगता है। बिजनेस करने का हुनर और जॉब करने की ताकत वो ऑटोमेटिकली अंदर पैदा होने लगती है।
Our first skills training center, which Schneider was set up in Tihar Jail in 2013. And since then, we have set up around 40 skills training centers and have trained more than 12,000 youths in basic electrician, renewable energy and entrepreneurship development. We are training and rehabilitating prison inmates, making them electricians, and when they come out from their prisons, even giving them toolkits, enabling them to start successful business ventures.
I invite all the youth of these countries to take maximum benefit from these training programs.